A Bluffton man admits to killing his ex-girlfriend while she was driving her son to school.
A young mom was dropping her son at school when something terrible happened. She was shot in her car, right in front of him. But why? And who would do this to her? This is the heartbreaking story of Jillian Angner and the man who couldn't let her go. Welcome to Crime Case Confidential, where we tell the real stories behind the world's most shocking crimes. Today, we share the story of Jillian Angner, a kind and hard-working woman who was loved by many, but was taken away in a terrifying way. We will look at her life, the warning signs, and how justice was finally served. Before everything changed, Jillian Angner was a kind and beautiful young woman. She was only 25 years old, but she had already made a big impact on the people around her. Jillian worked hard every day. She had a job at a pharmacy, where she helped people get the medicine they needed to feel better. Everyone who met her said she had a warm smile and a gentle heart. But more than anything, Jillian was a mother. She had a little boy who was just 6 years old. He was the light of her life. She loved him more than anything in the world. Every morning, she would get him dressed, pack his bag, and drive him to school. They would sing songs together in the car. He would giggle and call her mommy. She made him feel safe, loved, and protected. Jillian lived in Bluffton, South Carolina. It's a quiet town with trees, schools, and people who wave when they pass you. She liked it there. It felt like a good place to raise her son. She wanted to give him a peaceful life, full of kindness and love. But even in this peaceful town, Jillian had been scared. You see, a few months before everything went wrong, she broke up with a man named John Patrick Shea. At first, their relationship seemed normal, but over time, things changed. John became controlling. He didn't want Jillian to leave. When she did, he couldn't let go. Jillian tried to move on. She wanted to focus on her child, her job, and her future. But John kept showing up. She told people he was stalking her, following her, watching her, and making her feel unsafe. Sometimes she came home and found things moved around. She started to worry for herself and, even more, for her little boy. Even though she was scared, Jillian stayed strong. She kept going to work. She kept dropping her son at school. She kept hoping that someday soon, everything would be okay again. She was brave. She didn't want to live in fear. Friends said Jillian loved flowers, soft music, and spending time with her son. On her social media, she often shared pictures of them smiling together. Her life wasn't easy, but she made it full of love. She was the kind of person who gave hugs, who listened when others were hurting, and who always looked for the good in people. Even when life was hard, no one expected what would happen next. That's when Jillian met John Patrick Shea. Jillian met John Patrick Shea like many young people meet, through friends. At first, he seemed nice. He was quiet, a little older, and seemed to care about her. He listened when she talked. He asked questions about her job and her son. Jillian thought maybe she had found someone who truly understood her. In the beginning, things were calm. John would bring her flowers. He would help with little things. He told her she was beautiful and that he wanted to protect her. For a while, Jillian believed he meant it, but slowly things began to change. John didn't like when Jillian went out without telling him. He got angry when she talked to other people, even her own friends. He started checking her phone. He wanted to know where she was every minute of the day. Jillian began to feel trapped. At first, she tried to explain. She told him she needed space. She wanted a healthy, happy life, not fear. But John didn't listen. He began calling her non-stop. If she didn't answer, he'd send dozens of texts. He showed up at places she didn't expect him to be. Sometimes he would just stand near her car or outside her home. Jillian's friends started to worry. They told her something wasn't right. Even her family noticed she didn't seem like herself. She looked tired, nervous. She didn't smile as much. So Jillian made a brave choice. She ended the relationship. She told John it was over. She told him she needed to protect her son and focus on her future. But John didn't accept that. Instead of letting her go, he got worse. Jillian began to report strange things. Someone had been inside her home. Her things were moved. Her tires were slashed. Sometimes she thought someone was following her. She felt like she was being watched all the time. She told people she was scared of John. She even told police. But stalking is hard to prove. Jillian didn't have videos or pictures, and John was careful. He didn't leave much evidence behind. Still, Jillian did everything she could to stay strong for herself and her son. She kept going to work. She kept smiling for her little boy. She tried to live a normal life. But in the background, danger was growing. John wasn't letting go, and he was planning something that would change everything. John's obsession turned into something more dangerous. After Jillian ended the relationship, John didn't just walk away. He became obsessed. He wanted control, and when he lost it, he started watching her closely. At first, it was small things. Jillian would leave work and feel like someone was behind her. She'd turn around, but no one would be there. Once, she saw John's truck parked near her apartment. He didn't knock. He didn't say anything. He just sat there, staring. Sometimes Jillian would wake up and feel like someone had been near her home. Her windows would be slightly open. Her doormat would be out of place. Her front door, which she always locked, looked like it had been touched. She started to sleep with the lights on. One day, she told a friend, "I feel like I'm being hunted." Jillian tried to protect herself. She changed her locks. She checked behind her when she went shopping. She even started parking in different places at work and at home. But it didn't stop him. John kept showing up. At her job, at her child's daycare, even near her family's house. He would text her things like, "I saw what you wore today," or "You think you're safe, but you're not." Jillian told the police. She told friends and family. She begged people to believe her. But without clear proof, it was hard to stop John. He hadn't hurt her yet, and because of that, no one could arrest him. Jillian even thought about moving, but she didn't want to uproot her son. She wanted him to finish school, to stay close to his friends. She hoped John would just give up and go away. But John wasn't giving up. Instead, he was getting worse. Inside his home, he was building something dark. Police would later find it. A strange shrine filled with candles, a voodoo doll with Jillian's name on it, and creepy handwritten notes. He had made a list of every girl he had ever dated. Jillian's name was on the top, underlined. He had also written the words, "She belongs to me," over and over again. No one knew what was happening behind those closed doors. No one knew just how angry he had become. Jillian was living her life, trying to be strong, while John was planning something terrible. And one morning, he decided to act. It was March 2nd, 2023, a Thursday that started like any other. Jillian woke up early to get her son ready for school. She made him breakfast, helped him put on his shoes, and zipped up his little backpack. Like always, they got into her red Jeep Cherokee together. He sat in the back seat, probably humming to himself, not knowing that anything was wrong. Jillian smiled at him through the mirror. She loved being his mom more than anything in the world. She drove to the school drop-off area in Bluffton, South Carolina. It was a quiet street surrounded by trees. Other parents were doing the same thing, dropping off their kids, giving them hugs, waving goodbye. But Jillian didn't know that someone was watching her. Hiding. Waiting. John Patrick Shea had been following her. He knew her schedule. He knew exactly where she would be that morning. As Jillian pulled up and prepared to let her son out of the car, shots rang out. John had ambushed her. He fired into the driver's side window again and again, shattering the glass and hitting her multiple times. The sound was loud, sharp, and terrifying. Her son, sitting in the back seat, saw everything. The little boy didn't scream. He didn't cry. Instead, he did something incredibly brave. He opened the door, ran out of the car, and disappeared into a nearby marsh to hide. He stayed low, covered in mud and fear, until help arrived. Someone nearby called 911. When police and paramedics arrived, they found Jillian slumped over in her seat. Her body was badly hurt. There was glass everywhere, on the dashboard, on the seat, and on the road. But somehow she was still alive. Barely. She was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support. Her family was called. Everyone hoped and prayed she would survive. Meanwhile, police began to search for the man responsible. Witnesses described seeing a truck speeding away. Surveillance cameras nearby picked up a glimpse of a Ford F-150, John's truck. But at that moment, no one knew exactly where he had gone. Jillian was fighting for her life. Her son was safe, but deeply shaken, and the entire community was in shock. What kind of person would do something like this, in front of a child? The answer would only get darker from here. How her son made a brave escape, and when the police arrived, what they found was beyond disturbing. Jillian's son was only 6 years old, but that morning, he showed incredible courage. When the gunshots hit the car and shattered the window, he froze for a moment. His mom wasn't moving. The glass had flown everywhere, but somehow, even through the fear, the little boy knew he had to get away. He quickly unbuckled his seatbelt, opened the car door, and ran. He didn't scream. He didn't wait. He just ran as fast as he could, into the woods and through the trees until he reached a marsh nearby. He crawled into the muddy water and hid there, staying still and quiet. Police later said it was that quick thinking that saved his life. A neighbor who heard the shots called 911. Within minutes, police and medics arrived at the scene. What they found was heartbreaking. Jillian was still in the driver's seat of her red Jeep. The front window was completely shattered, and the inside of the car was covered in broken glass and blood. The car was still running, as if she had never had the chance to turn it off. There were bullet holes in the door, in the steering wheel, and even in the headrest behind her. Officers carefully pulled Jillian from the car and rushed her to the hospital. She was still alive, but just barely. Doctors would later say she had no brain activity. Her family made the hard decision to keep her on life support, hoping for a miracle. Police searched the area. They followed small footprints leading from the car into the woods, and that's where they found her son, cold, covered in mud, but safe. He was taken to safety and held tightly by officers and loved ones. He couldn't fully understand what had just happened, but he knew something terrible had taken place. Back at the scene, investigators began gathering evidence. They found shell casings near the car, footprints in the grass, and a witness who remembered seeing a dark truck speeding away. Security cameras nearby caught a glimpse of a Ford F-150 around the time of the shooting. It was the break police needed. They began piecing everything together, and it all pointed to one man, John Patrick Shea. But when they went to look for him, he was already trying to disappear. Police searched his home, and what they found left no doubt. After the attack on Jillian, police knew they had to find John Patrick Shea fast. They followed the clues: witness statements, security camera footage, and tire tracks near the scene. Everything pointed to him. When they found John, he was at his home, but he wasn't just sitting around. He was packing. He had his passport, birth certificate, and clothes ready. It looked like he was about to run away and never come back. Police arrested him on the spot. But what they found inside his home shocked even the most experienced officers. In one room, there were candles placed in a circle on the floor. In the middle of the circle sat a creepy doll, like a voodoo doll with pins in it. It had long hair and small papers taped to it with Jillian's name written over and over. Next to the doll, they found strange books. Some were about witchcraft and dark magic. There were also tarot cards, old letters, and handwritten pages full of angry words. One letter had just 4 words repeated again and again: "She belongs to me." Another paper had a list of every girl John had ever dated. Jillian's name was at the very top, underlined in red. Next to it, he had written things like "disrespectful," "ignored me," and "must pay." On the walls, police saw pictures of Jillian, some with her face scratched out. Others had been burned along the edges. It was clear. John had been thinking about hurting her for a long time. In his bedroom drawer, they found a letter from his own mother. In it, she begged him to get help. She said he had anger problems. She was afraid of what he might do one day. Everything in that house told a story, not just of a breakup, but of obsession, hate, and darkness. Police took photos of every item. They gathered everything as evidence. To them, it was clear. This wasn't a random attack. This was planned. John had been thinking about this for months, maybe longer. The things he left behind painted a chilling picture of a man who couldn't let go, and who believed that if he couldn't have Jillian, no one could. He thought he could outrun the truth. After shooting Jillian, John Patrick Shea didn't stay at the scene. He sped off in his dark-colored truck and disappeared, but he knew the police would come looking. So, he started planning his escape. When officers later searched his home, they found everything packed. John had his passport, birth certificate, and a bag of clothes ready. He even had cash. It looked like he was planning to leave the country, or at least go far away, where no one could find him. To make it harder for police to trace him, John had left his truck parked at a local bar, trying to make it look like he had been there the whole time. He wanted to trick investigators into thinking he had nothing to do with the shooting. But the plan didn't work. The police were already closing in. They had security camera footage showing his truck near Jillian's school. They had witnesses who saw him nearby, and they had evidence that the attack was planned, from the shrine in his home to the notes with Jillian's name. So just a few days after the shooting, police tracked him down. He didn't get far. They found him still in South Carolina, not on a plane or in another state, just a man on the run, hoping to disappear. When they arrested him, he didn't fight. He didn't argue. He was quiet. But behind that silence was a man who had done something horrible, and now he would have to face the consequences. The courtroom became the place where everything would finally be said out loud. After John Patrick Shea was arrested, everyone waited to see what would happen in court. He was charged with many serious crimes: murder for killing Jillian, attempted murder for putting her son in danger, using a gun during a violent crime, and shooting into a car with people inside. At first, he said nothing. He showed no emotion. But when the trial began in June 2025, something unexpected happened. Right before the trial could fully begin, John stood up in court and said just one word: guilty. The whole room went quiet. People were shocked. After everything he had done, after all the fear and pain, he finally admitted it. He didn't want to go through a long trial. He didn't want a jury to decide. He just said it himself. Then he spoke again. He looked at the judge and said, "Please spare my life. I am mentally sick and unstable." He said he was sorry. He said he never wanted things to go that far, but his words didn't change anything. Jillian's family was sitting in the courtroom. They listened to every word. Some cried. Some held hands. They had lost someone they loved deeply. No apology could bring her back. The judge looked at John and gave the strongest sentence allowed by law. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole for Jillian's murder. That means he will never be free again. He was also given dozens of extra years for the other crimes. The judge said his actions were planned, cruel, and unforgivable. John was taken away in handcuffs. The courtroom stayed quiet. For Jillian's family, it wasn't a happy ending, but it was justice. The man who had hurt her, scared her, and taken her life was finally being held responsible. The case was over, but the pain was not. The people who loved Jillian still carried heavy hearts. When the court case ended, Jillian's family finally had a chance to speak. Her mother stood up in front of the judge, holding a photo of Jillian smiling with her son. Her voice was shaking, but her words were strong. She said, "Jillian was our light. She was kind, smart, and full of love. Now every morning we wake up, and she's not here. We miss her laugh. We miss her hugs. But most of all, we miss the way she made us feel safe. Jillian's sister spoke too. She said their family would never be the same. Her son will grow up without his mom, and no matter how much love we give him, we can never give him what she did. People in Bluffton were heartbroken. Jillian wasn't just a name in the news. She was their neighbor, their friend, the woman who smiled at the grocery store and helped at the pharmacy. A teacher from her son's school said, "We all loved Jillian. This never should have happened. She did everything right. She asked for help, and still this happened." Many were angry. Some said the justice system failed to protect her when she first reported the stalking. Others said more needed to be done for women in danger. Even people who had never met Jillian lit candles, left flowers, and shared her photo online. They wrote messages like, "We will never forget you." Justice was served, but it came too late. Her story touched hearts far beyond South Carolina. News outlets across the country covered the case. People everywhere were talking about domestic violence, stalking, and the importance of listening when someone says they feel unsafe. Here's why this story matters to all of us. Jillian Angner's story is painful, but it teaches us something important. It shows us that when someone says they're scared, we have to listen. Jillian spoke up. She told people that John was stalking her. She asked for help, but the danger was still allowed to grow. If more had been done, maybe she would still be here. It also reminds us that love should never hurt. Real love is kind. It gives space. It respects boundaries. What John felt wasn't love. It was control, and control can turn into danger. We also learned how strong a person can be. Jillian kept going to work. She kept raising her son. She kept smiling even when she was afraid. And her little boy, just 6 years old, did something brave that many grown-ups couldn't do. He saved his own life. This story isn't just about tragedy. It's about how we treat each other. It's about speaking up when something feels wrong. It's about watching for signs and taking them seriously. Jillian should still be here. Her son should still have his mom. Her family should not have to live with this pain. But through her story, maybe we can help save someone else. So if you or someone you know feels unsafe, don't wait. Don't stay quiet. Speak up. Ask for help. And if someone tells you they're scared, believe them. Because every life matters. Jillian's life mattered. If Jillian's story moved you, help us make sure no voice goes unheard. Hit the like button, leave a comment for her family, and share this video to raise awareness about stalking and domestic violence. And if you believe every victim deserves justice, subscribe to Crime Case Confidential. We tell the stories that must be heard.